I'd like to introduce our next two speakers, Maureen Laughlin and Kate Evans. Maureen is the Voice of Social Justice Director, and Kate Evans, Associate Professor of Law and Director of the Immigration Clinic at the University of Idaho College of Law.
Hi, everyone. So I don't have the honor of being a spiritual leader or a political leader, but I have the privilege of being a lawyer for immigrants. So last Friday, as we all know, President Trump signed an order that banned all students, all tourists, all teachers, all refugees, long-term immigrants entering the United States if they were from Libya, Yemen, Syria, Somalia, Iran, or Iraq. I represented people from all of those countries. It closed the doors to the United States to all those seeking protection here and targeted refugees, targeted Syrian refugees in particular, with an indefinite ban. That night, Iraqis who supported the U.S. military were detained in U.S. airports. Long-term residents of the United States were not permitted to come home. Family members of refugees on their way to reunite with loved ones were stopped short. Students and teachers were blocked from completing their scholarship. Refugees who had passed 2 years worth of screening and security checks were turned away at our shores. And 60,000 visas to come to the United States were immediately revoked. But by Saturday morning, huge crowds of protesters stood up for refugees, for Muslims, for humanity in our refugee policy. Teams of lawyers and advocates got immigrants off the planes who were going to deport them, out of detention at the airports, and started fighting back in court. By Sunday, the Trump administration already had to abandon parts of its order. Longtime immigrants could return to the United States. Family members who had landed in the U.S. to join their parents, their children, their spouses were allowed to do so. Students and teachers on visas to study here were ordered out of detention, and courts all over the country started siding with refugees and immigrants. As the week progressed, the political pressure mounted, the court challenges multiplied, and the protests grew. By Friday, the Trump administration had backtracked further. Our Iraqi interpreters would be allowed in. Individuals from the 7 countries could again become permanent residents. Refugees from those countries could seek protection for their loved ones. Individuals from those countries could again seek asylum from within. As of today, a court order in Washington has put a stop to the ban, forcing the government to allow refugees to come to the U.S. protection and allowing individuals from Libya, Syria, Yemen, Somalia, Iran, and Iraq to again enter the United States. Because of the outrage and the action of people across the country this past week, President Trump's own ban has been banned. But the many court orders are temporary, and political pressure is incredibly important to make the administration back down and ensure that our country serves as a refuge again. It's important to remember most of the Syrian refugees are women and children. The government itself has told Congress that no terrorist attacks have been committed by refugees. A ban on refugees is not what we need to keep our country safe. And this is also not the only fight for immigrants where your help is needed. In the Idaho legislature, HB 76, a new bill, would force our local police to spend their time investigating each and every one of us for our immigration status. I love it. It will undoubtedly lead to racial profiling, to unconstitutional arrests, to unconstitutional detention, and we need help to stop this bill in its tracks.
We saw it once before!
I'll close by saying it's my greatest privilege as a lawyer to help someone fleeing from violence to find safety in the United States. I'm so glad to see everybody here speaking out and standing up so that our refugee neighbors know we're with them and the administration knows we're not. I hope we're at a turning point that will take this country away from policies based on fear and discrimination. And my colleague, Maureen Laughlin, a longtime activist for peace and justice, is going to talk about how we can each do our part.
So let's be clear, I am not the face of social justice. We all are the face of social justice. And I don't know about the rest of you, but there are days when I lay in bed in the morning and think, I'm not getting up. I'm going to just put those sheets up on top of my head and I'm going to pretend this is not happening. Yep, that happens to all of us. And the answer is, they win every time we allow that to happen, and we cannot let that happen. We have to be the voices of social justice. That is our job. And as Kate was telling the story about all the things that have happened this week, it has been a roller coaster of good news and bad news. And the good news is people standing up for what is right and being the voices of social justice. We have to keep the pressure up. So my biggest fear is that we get lulled into where we are right now. We get a ban, it's a temporary ban. We have to keep the pressure up. And what we've also noticed is we've got a lot of executive orders still coming. And they're going to dribble them out and keep us just overwhelmed. So we can't let that happen to us. We must stay vigilant. We must keep the pressure up there, and we must make our voices heard. Yes. So what we have to do is think about how we keep our voices heard. We all do it really differently. We all can't be great immigration lawyers like Kate, who is welcome to our community here. We can't be ministers. We can't be all kinds. We are who we are. So you pick what it is that you do best. And my answer is, you come to rallies. It is democracy in action. It's really, or you decide to join a group. Proactive. One of the great things about the Palouse here is that people have really rallied. People have rallied, and it's really fun. We have proactive, we have upstanders, we have all kinds of them. One of the things that we have done is we have a table over there that has a list of different groups doing different social justice work here. And we also want to make sure that if you have a group or you're interested in a group, please sign up or take literature on it. We all need to stay active, okay? We all need, and I look down here and I see everyone's causes and I think they're all worthwhile causes and we have to stay active. The other thing we have to do is think about the idea of running for office. Yeah, here we go. Make your voices heard. We need to. And if you don't have any other ones you want to do, at least donate money to people who are doing worthwhile things. You know, we wouldn't have the lawsuits we had unless people were supporting places like the Immigrants' Rights Community and also the ACLU and other groups. Okay. The last one is write a letter to the editor. The most unlikely human beings are now writing letters. I will tell you that a former justice of the Idaho Supreme Court wrote a letter to the editor about how wrong this executive order is. Not only did he do that, he went on TV and talked about it, and he ended saying that he was starting a pro bono free assistance program for refugees in this state. And lastly, talk to people. Talk to each other. And I guess I sit there and I think, we need to keep the dialogue going. And there are great groups out here. And I see Kathy out here right now. Kathy Dawes right there waving her hand. Legislative action. I mean, she is a voice of legislative action that woke up on New Year's Day and said, you know what, we have to do something. And if you have any questions about what's happening, Kathy puts out a newsletter all the time, an email, that lists what are the white pages on this, who to contact, what the telephone numbers are, and exactly what action you can do. Now, don't be mistaken by some of this stuff, because I personally spent 5 phone calls last weekend trying to call Brian's office to give my opinion on the ACA. What did I get? A 2-minute verbiage on why the ACA is a bad thing, and then it pushed the button 1 if you actually want to weigh in on the survey. Every time, his voice, the box was full. So, guess what? My voice wasn't really heard, but you have to be persistent and stick with it. So there you go, Kathy. Okay, she's got a way to reach them. So my answer is, I got a couple of statements, and I'm going to end here. And one is, please go over and pick up information on Voices for Social Justice. The beginning of this week, we will actually have a web page up that lists every organization. And I'll tell you, we take no claim to having all of them, so make sure you add your name to that list. And also, I want to say, keep up the pressure. Another thing is, educate yourself. On February 15th, the University of Idaho College of Law is actually sponsoring, with a few other people, a whole program on immigration. Talk a minute on that?
Yeah, we'll have voices from undocumented students talking about their experience in these times. The legal director from the ACLU will join us, and Maria Andrade, a longtime advocate and leader in the immigration community, will be talking about what's going on right now and what we can do.
So grab a flyer, be active. Remember, we are the Voices for Social Justice.